Hi, I never know how to start my videos, but today I'm gonna make an eggplant parmesan sandwich. Stick around. First things first, we're cutting up the eggplant. You don't want these cut too thin because then you're pretty much just eating breading. You don't want them too thick either. I'd say that's about the perfect thickness right there for me personally. Now you can do this part just on your cutting board, is totally fine, but we're gonna salt the eggplant. You're not trying to do anything too crazy, you're just salting this guy so that it pulls out some moisture. Because otherwise, eggplant's like a sponge. It'll just soak up all of the oil you're trying to cook it in. You're just gonna have a mushy mess. And no one's trying to have a mushy mess, right? We're just gonna let that sit for like 10 minutes or so, maybe 15. Let some of that moisture draw out. I honestly probably let mine go for about 20 minutes, and this is what you're looking for. All of this water on top pooling up. If you're not seeing that, you either haven't let it sit long enough or you haven't used enough salt. Once you've adequately leached some water out of this, go ahead and dry it off as best as you can using a towel or paper towels. If you're afraid you've oversalted it, you can always rinse it off a little bit, but make sure to get them dry as soon as possible. We're gonna give these a really classic basic breading with all-purpose flour, an egg, and breadcrumbs. I usually buy plain breadcrumbs and just season them myself, but I accidentally bought these seasoned ones, and so those will work just fine. I'll write something in the description below about how you can season them yourself. I like to use wide, shallow bowls for this, just makes it a little bit easier. Some all-purpose flour. I ended up going with 2 eggs, but 1 would have been fine, and then I add about a tablespoon of water to my eggs before I whisk them up. It just helps everything bind together a little bit easier, and then a whole bowl of breadcrumbs. The breading itself is really easy, just throw it in the flour, get everything completely coated and dust off the excess, and then throw it into the egg. Get that totally covered in egg and then throw it into the breadcrumbs. I like to just kind of bury it in the breadcrumbs and push everything into it to make sure it gets fully coated. If you want a thicker coating, you can always go back into the egg and back into the breadcrumbs, but when it's nice and coated, go ahead and set it to the side and rinse and repeat with the rest of them. It makes life easier if you keep one hand for the egg and one hand for the flour and breadcrumbs, but however you make this happen is totally cool. Once those are done, it's time to go ahead and set up our fryer. I'm just using a cast iron pan and some peanut oil. All right, oil is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're just gonna drop these bad boys in. As always, drop them away from you and be careful. Hot oil will burn you really badly, and that would really suck. These guys shouldn't bubble up a whole lot, so you don't have to worry about having a super high rimmed pot, but you definitely don't want to overfill your oil. This is honestly more oil than I needed, but it's also not a problem. Try to keep that oil consistently at 350, give them a flip every minute or so, and you're just looking for that beautiful golden brown color. And then when these guys are done, I just have a wire rack sitting over tin foil, and as soon as they look nice and golden brown, we'll just get those bad boys off. Did I already say bad boys? We're gonna start using different adjectives here, nicknames if you will. Those come out, new ones go in. And you want to hit these with salt immediately after they come out. All of our eggplant is totally done now. Nice and crispy, but then when you bite into it, got that really nice crunch on the outside, and the inside is nice and fluffy. I could just sit here and eat all of these like this, but we're gonna make a sandwich. And my favorite bread to use for a sandwich like this is focaccia. I made some earlier this week, which is why I even wanted to make this sandwich. Cut it right in half. And then we're gonna toast the bread. You can use a little oil if you want. For me, focaccia has a good bit of oil in it already, so it'll just get nice and crispy without adding a lot of oil to the pan itself. Once those are nice and toasted, it's time to start assembling with some sauce. And I'm just gonna use this awesome truff sauce. Full disclosure, I work with truff on TikTok and Instagram. I don't even know if they know I have a YouTube channel. I didn't feel like making a whole bunch of pasta sauce because I already have this in my fridge. And sometimes it's okay to not make every single thing from scratch. You just gotta do what works for you. If you wanna make your sauce from scratch, go make your sauce from scratch. Anyway, back to the sandwich. We're gonna go a real thin layer of sauce, a couple pieces of eggplant, then we're gonna go with a little bit more generous layer of sauce, followed by more eggplant. You could definitely just keep this to one layer. I was just pretty hungry, so I went with 2 layers. More sauce to your liking, and then although the name is Parmesan, this is actually gonna be mozzarella. It's definitely the more common cheese. You could also use provolone. I went with some fresh mozzarella and then covered the whole thing with a bunch of shredded mozzarella. And then this is going under the broiler for a few minutes until that cheese is totally melted and has that nice brown look to it. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about over here. Now we're gonna hit it with that shredded Parmesan. You could have always added this before it went into the oven, but I like it before. And then I'm gonna rip up some basil to give it a little bit of freshness. Put the top on the top and bling bang boom, we got ourselves a sandwich. I think I could have gone with a tiny bit less eggplant, but I'm not actually mad about that. Cheers. That's amazing. It's a simple sandwich, like most things I try to make, but there's something awesome about getting the simple things perfect. This sandwich is really, really good. I hope you make it, and let me know if you got any questions. In the meantime, I'm gonna go finish this sandwich, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.